Welcome to Trev White Sailing. I'm going to talk about diving in the Blue Cave at Tanna Island in Vanuatu. So recently we got into Tanna Island, and after a trip from the Bay of Islands to New Zealand, and we decided to do a few tours in Tanna before we headed up to Port Vila. So Tanna Island is a reasonable size island, and on the west coast there's a number of dive locations or snorkeling locations depending on your preference. So we arrived in Lanakal. We went and did a couple of land tours and went and saw the volcano. Then we decided we'd do some boating activities and check out the blue holes and the blue cave. And we decided, or I decided rather, that we would go to the blue cave first and we'd sail down the island. We went to a place called Lalanut Bay, which is the north of Tanna Island, or very near to the north, and it's the last viable bay that you can anchor in. It's 15 to 20 metres sand, so it's quite deep. And the bottom was quite hard. It took a little to get the anchor in. I've got a rockner, so it took a few times to get it set. And the bay is at 19 degrees 22.2 south, 169 degrees 14.8 east. That's where I anchored. Once we got the anchor set, the holding was pretty good. It wasn't rolling too much. It was reasonably protected from the south-southeast. And we had a little bit of swell, but not much. And then the Blue Cave is probably about 1.2, 1.3 nautical miles from that anchorage. And it's at 90 degrees 21 degrees south, 169, 14.7 minutes east. So yeah, you just go north from the Blue Cave and you'll head along the coast, which is quite a nice rocky type of coast. And you'll see a crazy looking fortification built onto the side of a mountain or on the side of a sea cliff. And it's got, stairwells coming down, and then you see a ladder leading into the ocean, and that is the Blue Cave. So the guy who owns the land is trying to make it into something, and it's all a little bit ad hoc. But the Blue Cave is the Blue Cave, and once you're there, they won't miss you. They'll always seem to find you, and it cost us 2,000 Vatu admission to the Blue Cave, which is about 22, 23 Australian dollars. Was it worth it? Yeah, I think it was worth it. Everything in Vanuatu is pay-per-view. So if you want to see something, you generally have to pay to do it. It's how they make their money. And I suppose it's no different to going to a park or a national park in Australia. It's all pay-per-view. Everybody's trying to squeeze a buck out of you somewhere. So initially, we arrived down in Lalawat Bay and anchored. It was probably about lunchtime. We sailed down. We had a beautiful sail down from Lanakal. We thought we'd go and check it out, so we got down to the Blue Cave at about 2 p.m. It was okay to get in there. We paid our money, had a look, but the light was terrible. So the light wasn't really good for taking photographs. And we negotiated with the guy, much to his disagreement, to come back the following day and take further photographs. So we only just popped our head in. It's no good. So we came back at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And I thought the light was good. It was streaming across the cave, quite an impressive stream of light coming into the Blue Cave and into the water. Emil, who was, our quasi-professional photographer, wanted to get different photographs. So I went in there anyway. I did a few photographs early. Him and the girls just did a bit of free diving outside, like there's some few rock formations out there, and came back closer to about 11 o'clock and entered the bay. So entering the bay is not terribly difficult. It's just snorkeling gear or diving gear, depending on what you want to achieve. It's only probably a couple of metres, like maybe 4 metres deep at the deepest point inside the Blue Cave. On high tide, you need to duck dive through the entrance, which is not terribly difficult. And on low tide, you can sneak under the entrance to get in. So it's a small breath hold to get in, maybe a couple of metres. The light... I really liked the light inside the Blue Cave. I thought it was a pretty cool light. Got a number of photographs in there, different people. The water is incredibly blue, because you've got the ocean behind you at the entrance, you got the light in there, and it creates a real vivid blue light at the entrance to the Blue Cave. External to the Blue Cave, you have a high and low cliff jump, where, people can go up there and jump off the cliffs, and, the crew did. I was gone out to the dinghy to untie it off a mooring. There is a mooring about, 50 metres off the coast where you can tie your dinghy up to. They said we could tie the yacht up there, but I had a look at the mooring, and if you hate your yacht, then tie it to the mooring, because you probably won't be there when you come back. But tying the dinghy seemed okay. It was just a piece of, polypropylene rope anchored to some rocks on the ocean floor. I certainly wouldn't tie my yacht there. But 50 metres offshore was still probably 10 metres deep, and it would have been okay, but no, not for me. And it's probably a little deep for anchoring. You probably need to anchor to like 20 metres of water, go a bit further away from the rocks, because at 50 metres it's still rocks and rock shelves, and good chance of snagging an anchor in there. And that's why I anchored further down at the last bay in sand, and got a good pick in, didn't have to worry about the boat, and then just took the dinghy up. But yeah, I got out to the dinghy, turned around, and my crew were all climbing up the cliffs to jump off the cliffs. The cliffs, I suppose, were 10 metres high, and people like to jump off cliffs. So I hung around and took a few photos of them jumping off cliffs and carrying on, which is all cool. So if you're there, there's cliff jumping, there's diving in the cave. I would say get there between 9 o'clock and midday, and then you've got a variety of lighting conditions. So from 9 o'clock, the light is streaming across the cave. As it gets high in the sky, it's coming down into the cave. So you get different lights for different effects, and I liked both of the effects, and I got some interesting photographs in there. So that was my experience at the Blue Cave. Would I go there and do it? Yeah, I'd go there and do it. I think it's difficult to get there by road. I think the road is a bit of a goat track, which I'm sure they will improve. A lot of people go by dinghy, so they go from one of the resorts further up, hop in a punga, and then scoot down and do it from a punga. So you've got to pay for your boat ferry, which might be a couple of thousand Vatu, and then you've got to pay a couple of thousand Vatu to get in the cave. There's also the blue holes. So if you go 8 kilometres north of where we anchored the yacht, there is something called the blue holes. Again, they're quite deep holes. Water's very clear. A little bit of coral and formations around. Crew went up there and had a bit of a snorkel around there. They enjoyed it. I didn't choose to go up. I'd already done enough snorkeling around the reef, so I was quite happy. But you could stop at the blue holes on the way through if you wanted to, or you could sort of anchor somewhere in between. There's a bit of anchoring off one of the resorts. You just got to pick your spot. And so there's a number of activities you can do there and have a look around. So Tanna is an interesting place. There's a number of things to do. We spent a week there easily, and I would recommend the blue holes, the blue cave, Mount Yazur, and looking around at the other activities that are available on the island. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and safe sailing. See you out there.